Okay, so at the moment we only have the North American continent here, and Hayom Yom 4 Tishrei, and we'll do 5 as well, because 4 is one brief statement. It's a halacha. When you do Mayim Achrayim, before benching, wash the fingertips, and then while the fingertips are still wet, pass them over the lips. That's today's Hayom Yom, but let's do Shabbos as well. 5 Kislev. This is taken from Parshat Vayotze. So there was a ladder standing on the ground. This is Yaakov journeying out into the desert. The ladder was standing on the ground. And the Alter Rebbe says, this ladder, what do we understand in the inner meaning of this ladder standing on the ground? Prayer is the ladder. Tefillah is the ladder that connects souls in Godhood. And although it stands on the ground, the start of davening being no more than acknowledgement. This is what it means on the ground. Like you're grounded. It's not complex intellectually. You're grounded. You're acknowledging. You're acknowledging you're standing in the presence of God. That's what it means. Acknowledgement. That's how we darshan standing on the ground. Yet its top, as the pasuk goes on, that the sulam so it stands on the ground, and its resha, its top, reaches the heavens. A state of total bittul self-nullification. So from acknowledgement, you go there and acknowledge, and then it reaches the top, which is a total state of bittul, self-nullification, dissolving of the ego. But one reaches this level through the prior attainment of comprehension and understanding inherent in the Pesukei de Zimra. Also, when he's speaking about tefillah, he's speaking specifically about Shimon Esrei. Shimon Esrei, in the language of the Talmud, is called tefillah. And they're moving. So the whole process of davening, starting with Birchas HaShachar and moving on to Pesukei de Zimra, is climbing the ladder. Pesukei de Zimra, that's the place where we are drenched in and given so many things to contemplate, to meditate upon. And then we go into Krishma and Vehavta, etc., etc. And then so this is the ladder of Tefillah. And in the ladder of Tefillah, this is the culmination of what we've understood and contemplated in Pesukei de Zimra and the Birkas of Shema and in Shema itself. So that was the Hayom Yom 4 Shabbos. Okay, having spoken just now about the quality of tefillah, we're going to resume our conversation about the quality and the advantage that there is in mitzvahs. Lessons in Tanya, page 307. And Likutei Amorim, it's on page 310. From the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, as a short preface, I just have a short preface. Our subject is continuing the subject of mitzvahs, which are the containers in which Hashem has placed His will. And we're going to encounter a lot of fine points as we go further in this explanation. But the overarching thing to keep in mind as we're learning today's Tanya are the two famous sayings, famous because, I'm only saying because they are famous in Chassidus, but we've used them a lot here in our learning. One, the beginning is wedged in the end. So we have to understand that to mean essence of God, which is the beginning, is wedged in the end, which is the physical world and the physical things in which He has invested His will, which are the mitzvahs. This is what I want. All the stuff in between is getting to the expression of what He really wants, which is a dwelling place in this world through the performance of mitzvahs. And the other thing, another somewhat similar, related but different, is we say in the Shabbos davening, Soif Maaseh b'machshava techila. That is, which is last indeed, which is the lowest of the low, the fruits and vegetables that we use for mitzvahs, the cloth that we use for tzitzis, the leather we use for tefillin, that's Soif Maaseh, that's the lowest of the low, b'machshava techila, is first in thought. All of which to encapsulate the notion that we're going to explore now, that the essence of God is most expressed not in Torah and not in tefillah, but in mitzvahs. Okay, now we get into, we'll see the vocabulary, how he expresses this. V'hine lakia mitzvah, to fulfill a mitzvah, sheyev shel ases al yidei acherim. If a mitzvah comes along and you're a gadol b'Torah, you're a Talmid Chacham, and your profession is Torah, if a mitzvah comes along that nobody else can do, mevatlin Talmid Torah, the Talmid Chacham nullified, stops learning his Torah, even if he's involved in the very deepest secrets of the Torah, which he expresses here, Ma'aseh HaMarkava. Ma'aseh HaMarkava, the deed of the chariot, is that part of the Kabbalah, which takes apart and dissects all the various nuances of creation, how the world is built, and how it's built externally and internally. The inner kavanas and the external aspects are all called Ma'aseh HaMarkava, the secrets of the deed of the Markava. So even if you're involved in that, the Chol Shechein Tefillin, how much more so if you're involved in praying and a mitzvah comes along, shehi bechinas, you abandon the prayer in order to do the mitzvah. These are the halachas. And so what? So the halacha is pointing to the maila, the advantage, the higher quality of mitzvahs over both learning and davening. So even tefillah, even davening, shehu bechinas moichin v'dechila v'dechima. It's right, and you're involved in thinking, contemplation, and arousing your heart and soul. So moichin and dechila v'dechima sichlim, these are the midos as they exist in the mind, and then when they come into the heart. Okay, and the reason for this is, that's just an elaboration of what davening is. The reason is, as we've said above, that, what did we say above yesterday? That in order to accomplish the birurim, the whole purpose of mitzvahs is to mevarer netzutzim, is to take the sparks of toihu, rectify them, release them, engage them, and reveal them in this world. That's what we said yesterday. And that's the maila of mitzvahs over the other two. And he adds now, in addition, in addition, we'll ask this. Sheba emes, ma'ed godla ve'gavoha milas ha-mitzvahs ma'asis. There's a much greater elevation. They come from a much higher place. The ma'isa of the mitzvahs, v'chein lemudim, and even learning about the mitzvahs, much greater place, much higher place. Al milas ha-moichin, much higher than the moichin, the brains, which inform these are the intellect, the midos as they are in the brain, as they inform the heart. The mitzvahs come from a much higher state. Ki hagam de kasiv, even though Tak is written l'davkeboy, that you should cling to Hashem, and the Chazal explain, how do you cling to Hashem? Al yedei midosan, through his midos, and that we say, just as he is kind, you should be kind. Just as he is merciful, you should be merciful. And that's called the Vekas B'Hashem. Mekol Mokem, nevertheless, and then udavaka fila b'midas el yoines. When you cling to his midos, you're not even clinging to the highest levels of the midos, which is the essence of his midos. You're only clinging mitziyusan, in their how they are expressed, v'leba mahusan, and not in their essence. And Avram Avinu said this about himself, "Anoichi offer the efer. I was dust and ashes." Meaning Avram Avinu said, as much as I'm involved in the, it wasn't a mitzvah yet, but I mean, it wasn't consciously a mitzvah, it wasn't prescribed as a mitzvah. Hafotzes mayonis, right? To spread the well springs. I'm spreading the well springs, but I don't grasp the internality of them. I don't grasp the ultimate. Ultimately, mitzvahs have no reason. And this is expressed, I think I mentioned it recently, in the famous confrontation between Moshe and God. When Moshe saw what was happening to Rabbi Akiva, he said, "This is the Torah, and this is its purpose. This is yeah, this is the Torah, this is the Torah, and this is its reward." And God said to him, "Be quiet." So it rose up in my mind. So how it is in God's mind, we can never ever touch that. We can see the ramifications of it and the effusions of it. And even Abraham Avinu admitted that I'm only dust and ashes. That's what's meant here. The Kol Shechen, the Or Ein Sof. So we can't really grasp the essence of anything that comes from Hashem, and how much more so can we not grasp the Or Ein Sof itself? As the Zohar says, Deleis Machshavah Tefisa. No thought, meaning no mind, and this means not only no human mind, but even no angelic mind, no mind of any being in any world can grasp the Or Ein Sof itself. No thought can grasp him. The Oidev Hespashtus Achayas, in actually the Fisabe, the Oidev Hespashtus Achayas Mimena Yizborik. You can't grasp the essence of that. What you can grasp of godliness is not the essence of God, but the effusions of God. How God brings himself out of himself into a sensible, meaning it can be sensed, an experiential existence that can be experienced by the creations. Shahu Shemachayas Kulam. You could see how he enlivens everything. So similarly, for instance, the soul. We know that we have a soul. How do we know that we have a soul? I mean, we could use another word. We know that we have a XYZ. How do we know that we have an XYZ? Because we see that this physical stuff that we're made of it has a life force within it. On its own, we know that it's just flesh, right? And flesh deteriorates. What gives this flesh life? What gives it that it doesn't deteriorate, that it not only stays in existence, but actually moves and feels and senses? There's this thing called X, which we call the soul. But we don't have any understanding into the nature of that soul. So this is a metaphor. Just like we see the effect, the mitzvas, the way God instantiates it, brings himself into existence, that we can see, but we don't see his essence, because we don't see how he's enlivening everything, and not into his essence. Even the highest levels of beings, and the word beings in Atzilus, they say, Kadosh, 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 meaning Hashem himself is removed from us. We see the effects, but we don't have any hasaga in him himself. It says, Kadosh, Kadosh, Hashem Tzivokos. The holy animals, the holy army, Tzivokos, acknowledges that Hashem is separate from us. Levad alulim hanusolim, except for very, very rarefied instantiations of God's emanations. They must see him. They can grasp something, but even these are the emanations in the world of Atzilus. They can grasp something, but only ki'im be'ilosai. They can only grasp, and they get it real clear, unlike us, that we who we can see the cause of us. That's the vision that's seen by the netzolim, the emanated things in Atzilus. So they can see to their cause, but they can't see to the cause of the cause or to the cause of all causes. They can see a little bit more, clearly what's pushing it. Yefi HaSeder Sheb'Etz Chaim, according to the Seder that's written in Eitz Chaim. V'Hislapshus HaPartzufim, where he speaks about the enclothement of the faces. Faces is a metaphor for structure, how the structures are structured and relate to each other. And one of the reasons it's called a face is like when you look at a face, when you say, I see your face, you're not talking about I see this eye and this nostril. You're seeing an entity, which is you're seeing a whole which is composed of various entities, but the entities are not what's front and center, it's the composite. So these are the parsufim, the composite forces of Hashem as they chain down and down and down, but not the essence. Avalei ben Avroyim, and that's that. Okay, they see the cause, the immediate cause of them. They can see that, but not created beings. Afila ben Hashemas Atzilus, even souls of Atzilus, meaning people who have souls of Atzilus, like the Alter Rebbe, like Moshe Rabbeinu, etc., etc. A few people who are mentioned who are souls of Atzilus. And he uses Moshe Rabbeinu as an example. He, because he's a created being, he's a nivra, right? He belongs to the world of Bria and lower, and he's not an emanation in the world of Atzilus himself. So Re'isi as Achurai, he can only see the backside of Hashem. Okay, so we don't grasp Hashem's essence, right? That's the point that he's made here with all of this, except in Ma'aseh HaMitzvah, when we do a mitzvah, when we take, and he's going to say, we're going to use an esrog, for example, because the mitzvahs are Ma'aseh Elokim him, and the Torah tells us that the mitzvahs are the deed of God himself. So as godliness comes down in a chain from the vessels of Atzilus, Libiyah, to the lower worlds, Mimahusam v'atzmusam, from his very essence, the Chitsuniyusam, and they manifest in more and more external ways. He gives an example, Kamaya Derek Mashallah Esrog, Uminov, the Esrog and the Daled Minim of Sukkos. So essence comes down and is hilbish, it's enclosed in these physical things. What's enclosed in them, in the Esrog and the Daled Minim? HaKodesh Baruch Hu, Mamahutzim Yasmutzim, the Chasodim Penimius. The Holy is a big phrase here. What's enclosed in them is the Holy One, blessed be He, from His essence of kindnesses. And he says, from the Penimius, the inner dimension of his essence of kindnesses, as that essence is expressed in Zoh, in the midos of Atzilus. B'hainu, we're getting his essence, but the externality of his essence is invested in Ma'aseh HaMitzvahs, in the deed of the mitzvahs, the object of the mitzvahs, which at the moment we're talking about the Esrog, Kenoida, as is known, B'chol mitzvahs ma'asiyos, and this is true of all deeds. Give you an example of how this is expressed. The Esrog, it's expressed in Chassidus. One of the reasons it's called Pri Eitz Hadar. The Chassidus darshans this word Hadar to mean Hador. Dor means to dwell, right? And what does it mean that it dwells? The Esrog has this unique quality that it dwells on the tree in all four seasons and gets nourished from all four seasons, something which isn't normal in a lot of other things. So that's an expression of something higher than Seder Histalshalis. Another one, I'll just do another one. Tzitzis. Tzitzis have to be on the corner of the garment, and they have to be the same material of the garment. The garment of the tzitzis is a makif, right? When you dress the tzitzis, the talis, you put it all over yourself. But the tzitzis, the stuff that comes out of it, and the tzitzis which come out, which are the strings, which are the indication of Seder Histalshalis, the narrow lights which come down and down and down, have to be of the same quality, meaning the talis with its tzitzis indicates that the or hasoivid, the surrounding quality, is invested in the or panimi, in the strings. And so there are these physical mitzvahs, there's just two of them, manifest the notion of actual godliness being captured in a physical vessel. Masha'inkin ha'odam, a person, afilu yesh le neshama, if a person has a neshama of Atzilus, he could have a neshama of Atzilus, but since that neshama is invested in the body, as I said earlier, we know where there's a pulse of life within us, but we don't know anything. We can't touch and feel and grasp and even understand anything about how that pulse of life works. So we don't get the essence of the pnimius of kindnesses of Zohar Atzilus, the essence of the inner dimension and the kindnesses of the world of Atzilus. Ki Atzilus hu bechinas chaya, because Atzilus is, what is Atzilus? If you want to know, is the level of the life force, beklalis oilimus. Atzilus is the level of the life force of all the generality of worlds of Abiyah, Atzilus B'Yitzinasia, Shehi bechinas makis, and the life force is there, it's present. As we discussed a few days ago, the or makif doesn't mean it's a surrounding from above. I think Rabbi Paltiel has a nice mashal for this. Oh yeah, about the lights of the oil of the menorah, as we'll be learning in our class on menorah. The oil has a function. If you look at oil, it's like an oil in a salad. It's not drawn into; it sits above, but it gives a flavor to everything. And then another aspect of oil, if you put oil on a piece of bread, it's sucked in. So it's both in a surrounding and in light and sucked in, right? So we call it an or makif. That's the definition of makif. It's all encompassing, meaning everywhere present equally, and it permeates every aspect of reality, right? So that's what we call the life force. It's bechinas makif milamayla. It encompasses from above. And it's not enclosed. Enclosed meaning, even though it permeates everything, it doesn't take on and change itself as it goes into everything the way Or Mamali does. Or Mamali, example of Or Mamali, is the aspect of the soul which is designed for the eye to give the eye the power to see, or the aspect of the soul which is designed for the ear to give the ear a power to hear. Those are Mamali faculties. So we don't see, we can't grasp makif. We can't grasp essence. So what can we grasp? Only the actualization, the instantiation, the way things exist. We can get that through some qualities of mindfulness. And that which is written, that he saw the backside, said Moshe Rabbeinu saw something, he just didn't understand something, but he saw it not through his mindfulness, but through his faculty of prophecy. Shehu hispashtus anashomis. This word hispashtus here is really hafshota. I'd actually like to know if it could be pronounced differently, because what he means here, when you strip the thing, hafshota, you strip it of its physicality, then you can expose its reality, its godliness. And that's what you can see with prophecy. It would be itfashtos, but I don't know if that's pronounced that way. I'd like to know. But that's the meaning. Hafshata, stripping it. Hafshatas agzgashmi, stripping it of the physicality. Meshikos of Araya Behemno and Parshat Mishpatim in the Zohar. Bahainu, I know I'm bullying on here because we have to get, we're in the middle of Shabbos's piece already. Are we? Yeah, we're getting. Bahainu, Hatam is okay, please, plain and simple. It's impossible for any created any created being to grasp at all the mahus of godliness, the essence of godliness, shehu haboida, who is the godliness, which is the creative force. Ubali hasoga enzu halbasha, and without understanding, we don't call that halbasha. It's not enclosed. The tefisa, and you can't grasp it. The devekas, amitas, and it's not true clinging. Masha enkein ha'esrog, the esrog, by way of an example that we had before. All these words mean that the esrog gets its life force directly from, and that's why it's a devar mitzvah. Remember, mitzvah is safto v'chibur. It's bound to and connected with the essence of God. So even though it's a poor fruit, it looks like it's like a fruit. He's going to say soon that even all fruits are connected like this, that they are embodiment of essence of Hashem. As he says, they get, we'll start the Mashiach esreg al derek mashal, Chiyuse nimshecha v'nistalshlo memachus chetzonis lekelim denukva dezor. They get their life from the externality of the vessels of Malchus, of Zor, of Atzilus. Shehu b'chinas elokus mamish, which is actually godliness as expressed in Eitz Chaim. And he goes on, he says, Shekol haperes, all fruits, hein be'atzilus. Now, to tell you the truth, I really don't understand all that. I don't understand that. I don't understand why fruits particularly. And the Rebbe has a footnote in Lessons in Tanya, where it's someplace else it says there are 7 fruits that have this quality. So if the Rebbe questioned it, I'll leave it that way. But in any case, the fruits get, and it seems to me that any devar, and I'm just any devar mitzvah, anything that's used for a mitzvah would be in this quality, because any mitzvah, devar mitzvah, anything with a mitzvah, is expressing what Hashem wants in his essence. In any case. Ki lamed kelim de Atzilus, the 30 vessels of Atzilus, the way you get 30, there are 10 spheres, and each one of them has a roish, toich, and a soif. Each sphere has a head, a middle, and a bottom. 3 dimensions to anything, right? The body itself, a roish, toich, and a soif body. And so all 10 spheres have that, and that's 10 times 3 is 30. So these lamed kelim of Atzilus, they yordu l'biar, they descend to the world of Bria, which is the Yud Maimoris. They send, how do they descend? Through the 10 utterances with which Shehen Nivra Oil, in which the world was created. Al Yedei Hislapshis Benukva De'asiyah, as they are enclosed in Malchus. B'mahus, one essence enclosed in the other essence. The mahus of one world into the essence of another world. Ki HaKelim De'atzilus, the vessels of Atzilus, that's in the Shama B'asiyah, become the soul of the world of Asiyah. Shehi b'chinas elokus mamish, and this soul of any world is the godliness of that world. L'fi shebatzilus iva gameyuchad, but in Atzilus, there's a different state relationship between the soul and the body of Atzilus. In other words, the vessels of Atzilus and the light of Atzilus. The difference of relationship there versus everywhere else is that the kelim of Atzilus have a good sense and awareness of their light. They know they're nothing separate. They experience themselves as something, but at the same time, they experience themselves as nothing but godliness. That's the difference between Atzilus and all the other worlds, which is, and that is expressed in the Zohar, he and his kelim are one. Hamaitzel v'hanetzel, the emanator and the emanated in the world of Atzilus are one. And he says, and through the enclosement of the essence of the neshama, meaning the essence of the godly force of the kelim of malchus of Asiyah, that's how the esrog is created. And again, I believe, though I'm not 100% on solid ground, that this is true of any devar mitzvah, anything with which you do a mitzvah. So I think that he's using the esrog as an example of that. Benimsa, it comes out. When you grab an esrog in your hand, and you shake it according to halacha, you're grabbing onto the life force which is enclosed in it from Malchus of Atzilus. That's what you're holding in your hand. And that light of Atzilus is united with the light of the Ein Sof, the infinite, Hamaitzel Baruch Hu, the emanator himself. So that's how we understand. The Alter Rebbe gives us to understand the out of this world and in this world simultaneously quality, particularly of things with which we do mitzvahs. Now he goes back to kavana in davening. Kavana in davening, you're not grasping as essence, even though you may understand these Kabbalistic secrets. You're not grasping essence. Rivka, your hand just went up. Go ahead.
Okay, just because it sounds like you're going into another thing.
No, he's contrasting. Well,
Okay, but so
we're
I want to
almost,
stick with the first, I want to stick with the Devar mitzvah for a
yeah.
minute. There are, it's easy to say a mezuzah, Esther, this or that or that. What about a Shabbos challah? What about, I mean, there's so many things
What about a
everything,
Shabbos kala?
yeah, challah, and
Oh,
anything
challah,
we're
the
doing a
same thing.
mitzvah with,
The
our
same thing.
food, huh?
Same
Same
thing.
thing,
That's
right.
what I believe. That's what I said. I believe he's using esrog as a sample, an example,
Yeah.
because it's been explained in Hasidus about the quality of an esrog staying on the tree. That's an example of having the makif embedded in the panemius, and the example of tzitzit. Those are two examples I know, and therefore
But there
I
are
think,
so many, I mean, everything, not except for the things we know we can't elevate.
yeah, everything, every devar mitzvah, anything which we are going to do a mitzvah has this quality of holding Ein Sof in your hand.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. That's it.
Yeah.
Just seemed like
Yeah.
the right place to put that point.
Yeah, I thought I said that. In any case, it's good to emphasize. Ella, however, the mitzvah. Back to Mashiach can be kavana. When we're talking about kavana in davening, ain't a masig v'tefes af yudei. So you're not holding on to essence of Hashem, even though you've got a deep understanding in the Kabbalistic secrets. Ela mitziyusa, you've just got the Messias, not the mahus, the instantiation, not the essence. B'lei mahusa. Now, however, learning. How about learning halachas? What is that? The liman halachas esrog. I'm saying this the way you're taking on also, Rivka. For example, masig v'tefes ha'esrog. When you learn halachas, masig v'tefes ha'esrog mamish. You're actually grasping the essence of. You're actually grasping the esrog, whom is voisoy, and its mitzvah kahalacha, according to halacha. But instead of grabbing the esrog in your hand, you're holding on to the esrog in your speech and in your deed. So he's saying even learning the halacha is also part and parcel of this grasping essence of God. That's where you find God, in the halacha. And the halacha is the thought and speech of the thing which you will grasp in your hand and do. And how much more so when you're learning the soid of the halacha. The example I gave, for instance, that whole piece that I mentioned about the esrog on the tree, all 4 seasons, that's why it's called hadar, it dwells, that's a secret, meaning that's from the sod of the Torah, or the Kabbalah of the Torah. So when you're learning that level about a mitzvah, you're also enclosed in grabbing essence of Hashem. Aval davka soid is a mitzvah, as he says, not learning soid in general, not learning Kabbalah in general, but learning Kabbalah about mitzvahs. Because learning Kabbalah of mitzvahs is not worse, meaning it's in the same category of learning the halacha l'maisa. On the contrary, you're getting deeper into it, right? You're getting into the ins and outs of it being the mitzvah. Again, hold that. Not just learning in general, learning halacha about mitzvah. So you're getting deeper into it. So there's this even depth that you don't have when you're just holding it. Even though you're not grasping the essence of the thing, the deep kavanas of the thing, you don't need the deep kavanas of the thing. Learning the plain halakas of the thing is also grasping essence, just as if you're holding it in your hand. So that's, a lot of words here, but the bottom line is mitzvahs ma'asis, deeds that you do, then the objects with which you do them, they contain atzmus, essence. Everything else is just a pathway to getting there. Masa hua ikar. The root is the deed. Now, for me, all of this, detail is not necessarily, I don't remember it from year to year, but the point, the nakuda, is this, that the beginning is wedged dafka in the end, which is Ma'aseh HaMitzvah. That's where you'll find God's essence. That's where you'll find what He created everything for in the first place. Sorry for the bullying right through, but it's we're past time anyway. But any other, regardless of whether you got all the details, and I don't expect that you did, or that I did, I have to see them on the page. Any other questions in general?
I just because I thought I just heard that machshava and dibur, when you're thinking and learning about esrog, it's as if you're holding the essence, and then you ended up by saying that
Yes,
the deed is the essence. So
of course, the deed is the essence. Ma'aseh hu ha'ikar. The
Right.
halacha is just to know.
But
But
to
what he
learn the
said,
halacha, as you said, it also counts. Yeah.
correct. Absolutely, that's what he said.
Sorry to interrupt you. What's the
No,
difference between the two?
the difference between the two is the difference between the lower you get, the more essence there is. So you're dealing with essence. The essence has no levels. Essence is indescribable, right? Nevertheless, we speak about it. We speak about, as we say, when you hold it in your hand, that's the root of everything, because that's the tachlis, right? That's the Ratzon Elyon is the mitzvah in your hand. Learning about it is part and parcel of that. So it's also contains the quality of essence, but the quality is a bit different when you're actually holding it and doing it than when you're learning about it. But that's what he tells us, that he said, and this is a surprising thing. You might think that the learning halakha is a function of Torah, right? Learning. But he said, not when you're learning about a mitzvah. And when you're learning about a mitzvah, he says it's not worse than. It's meaning it's similar, it's in the same gather, the same boundary of holding it in your hand. Who's Zoom using?
Yeah, it's Riza. I
Riza.
think this is very illuminating, because let's say you want to be
Sure.
Shabbosdik on a Tuesday, you can learn Hilchos Shabbos on a Tuesday.
Yes.
And let's say you want to be doing with Mashiach, you could be learning Hilchos Beis Habachira. That's
Of course.
This is why we do it. This is the klal of why we do it.
Yeah.
And we could be bringing karbanos because we're learning, and also it's illuminating. I learned this a little before, but I didn't understand it. Now I do. Halacha is dry. You don't really feel so much like learning halacha. You'd rather learn Tanya. But the halacha is the kiyam ha-mitzvah.
Yeah.
The halacha is a mitzvah aspect. The Tanya is a meichen aspect, but the halacha is a mitzvah aspect. So, right. Get out your halachas.
But don't forget, he did a little piece in there. If you're learning the sod of the mitzvah, that's also part and parcel of mitzvah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's good.
That's good. Yeah, like we're doing,
then.
Like we're doing on our Monday night shir. We're learning the sod of Hanukkah, of Hilchos Hanukkah. So that's part and parcel of the mitzvah.
Oh, so if all of these classes about Hanukkah, it's like we're having Hanukkah the whole month of Kislev. We're not waiting for Chav Hey.
Okay, you got it. Very nice. Okay. Anything hanging out there? I know there's a lot of detail, but just don't get pushed through the weeds of which level, Hatsonius, Benemius, and just leave with the Iker. Ma'aseh hu ha'ikar. The deed is the main thing. Good Shabbos. We'll see you Sunday, Mr. Shem.
Good Shabbos. Thank you.
Shabbos.